Absolutely. So thank you for joining us. I'll give a quick overview of the program. It is being recorded tonight, so I'll pass the microphone to you if you have any questions or comments on the plan. But basically, this is our second year receiving community development block grant funding from HUD at the federal level. We submitted a consolidated plan, and each year we submit an annual action plan underneath that, which is basically a breakdown of the budget and how we intend to use funds. So, thank you, Shay. So we have a little over $1 million allocated for this year. Program goals are basically to support infrastructure projects, housing rehab, code enforcement projects, and other activities in our low to moderate income areas. We can go ahead and advance to the budget. And so this is a look at the actuals that were budgeted for last year versus what is proposed in this year's draft. There are 3 primary activity budget categories. And if you have a copy of the plan, we list the goals for each area on page 16, and then we have detailed planned activities on pages 20 and 21. But our goals for housing activities for this next year are to rehabilitate at least 12 household units within the county. And so planned activities include a wide array of things, from home repair programs, that includes roofing, electrical, HVAC, etc. Code enforcement activities, our goal is to assist at least 15 household units. And then infrastructure improvements. This year we have slated a number of sidewalk projects. So again, those are listed in detail on page 21 for reference. And then I think our last slide is just an overview of the public comment process, which is starting to wrap up. Tonight is our last public comment meeting, and we'll have a hearing on the 26th in the BCC meeting room. This will be our presentation to the board of the plan that includes all comment and feedback from the public. So, with that, I'm happy to open up to questions or comments if there are things you wanted to.
Why did Clay County get involved with the CDBG?
So the question is, why did Clay County get involved with CDBG? We are entitled to funds based on county population. So after you exceed 200,000 people, you're eligible to apply for funds, and it was basically to make improvements in our low to moderate income areas and stabilize those housing values and communities.
And basically, if we don't take the money,
basically, at the end of the day, it's entitlement money. So if we don't take it, it's going to roll back to some other county or some other municipality. So it's not that we're really, it wasn't a grant we sought out, it's an entitlement grant.
Well,
Sorry about that.
HUD requires public transportation also as part of this plan.
It's an allowable use, it's not a required use. And so when the county did their first 5-year, consolidated plan, that was not one of the included activities in the 5-year consolidated plan. When the county goes to do their next consolidated plan in 4 more years, then we can add that or change that, yes.
So I don't know. I don't know if you follow public transportation.
Yep.
The cost and the losses since 1965 as of July 2020. The public transportation nationwide has been subsidized over $1.4 trillion.
Right. What's wrong here? I'm going to move this. Oh, I got you.
So that's my concern. I moved out of Duval because of this. And because JTA, 66% of its cost is labor, and almost 70% of its subsidy comes from Duval taxpayers. So, and I followed the buses for years while I was living over in Duval. And there were times when there was no one on the bus. So biting the carrot that the federal government dangles in front of you is just going to be a tax burden down the road. It's just like the Skyway. The federal government gave them $75 million. Year to date, they've lost over $657 million in operating losses. From 2009 to 2016. So that's what concerns me as a taxpayer and resident of Clay. is that we're starting down the road where the federal government gets its tentacles in here, the county gets used to the dollars, and then the taxpayer is the one that ends up losing in the end.
So I'll address that to a certain degree on CDBG. So CDBG, this program's a little different than you're talking about for subsidized programs like in Jacksonville. This is a program that the money we receive is going straight back to the homeowners or to make improvements. So this is not creating a program that 5 years from now, if the federal government backs out, we still have to keep running. This is, for example, we're resurfacing a road this year. We're gonna resurface the road, it's done. If we make improvements to sidewalks, we're gonna make the improvements to sidewalks, it's done. It's an improvement to the infrastructure. This is not creating a new program that's subsidized by the federal government that could go away at some point. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I would counter that with part of HUD's requirement is to have transportation for low-income areas. And I've seen the benches popping up, and
Well, the benches are a totally different project, totally different, separate entity.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with.
But once you start now, so we're gonna be improving low to moderate income homes. Part of the requirement from HUD is those areas need to have access to transportation.
No, ma'am, not under this program, it does not.
That was on their formula plan.
It's part of their formula.
Under the mapping tool for coming up with your action plan.
It's part of how they figure out the funding for the counties, but it doesn't mean that the county has to provide public transportation to those areas. It means that is an allowable use, but it's not a requirement that we put in public transportation as part of this.
So public transportation will not become a thing with
this dollars that we're currently using, these dollars are going to fixing code enforcement issues, mowing people's yards, or removing junk. They're using to improve houses that have issues, low to moderate income, and the money's being used to improve sidewalks. The current year's money was used to improve, or is being used to improve a road and do a resurfacing. None of this money is going to support public transportation.
right. Not directly, but so Clay County, you said 200,000, we're 222,000. So we just went over the 200,000 mark.
I'm sorry, just so we can capture your comments.
So you said 200,000 was the threshold to be able to apply, and we just recently went over 220,000. So my concern is that there are so many grants out there, and they're tied to, HUD has a plethora of grants, and along with HHS and DOT, they have grants, and this is my concern, is that I understand it's an entitlement grant. If you didn't take it, someone else will. But this is, once a county gets used to having these funds and these grants, I don't think that people really take a look 20, 30 years down the road and look because nothing's free. There's no free lunch. Everything has a string attached, especially when it comes out of Washington. Everything. As innocuous as as you're playing this right now, it will have a string attached. And that's my concern is, because, I addressed this 20 years ago in Duval with the CDBG, and their transportation funds are tied to miles traveled, and that's part of their formula for their CDBGs, miles traveled in low-income areas. So I'm just really concerned.
All right, and we'll make. So, all the comments you made will be part of the public record. They'll all be part of the minutes from this meeting, which will go to the board on 26th.
Okay.
So, if you have other comments that you'd like to make at that point in time, the board meeting's open to the public, and anybody can comment on it from the public at that, and that's when the county commissioners will be there. None of us are voting members of the commission, so that's when but your comments will be part of the record. Okay.
All right, anything else?
I'll ask one question.
You ask more questions.
One question, I promise.
One question.
Do y'all have anything that y'all are looking at hard to do, like sidewalks in a certain area, let's just say Hilltop or anything like that that y'all gonna do in this area that y'all looking at that y'all really wanna spend the money on? I know the Lily Carter Road is part of this year, but I'm just saying like future, what I'm trying to say.
Yes, we actually do have a whole list of sidewalks listed on page 21 of the plan, so I'm happy to open that up.
Take it.
I got one.
You good?
I didn't.
Yeah, 21, number 4 right there at the bottom. Sidewalk improvements to portions of, and then there's a list of streets there.
Now, is this in a certain area that you got to do this, or is this all over the whole county?
This is countywide.
Countywide, okay.
Yes.
I'm at my last question, so I can't answer no more. You'll get on me.
Okay, as many as you want.
Okay.
All right.
But I would say on that note, if there's a road, if there's a sidewalk that you wanna see, let us know, get it with Sharice, because, engineering's still evaluating the list and going over it, so we'll,
Now, on the helping with the mowing and stuff like that, y'all put that on their code enforcement, like, I'm just saying, like I see Sharice go in front of the board with a code violation, so-and-so, we helped so-and-so get this fixed and cleaned up. Does that go on their taxes, or is that something that this grant takes care of, so it's completely, I would say, no penalties to the person,
well,
right?
I guess the question to Sharice would be, and we would, I think the question you're asking, let me rephrase the question, then I'm gonna hand it to
Okay.
Sharice, because she'll have to answer. So somebody's currently has a fine, has a lien on their property.
Mm-hmm.
We use CDBG funds to clean up the property, so now they're not a code enforcement problem anymore.
Okay.
That was your
Yeah,
first part of the
that's-
question?
yes.
The second part of your question is, are we forgiving the fines, or,
Yes.
and I don't have an answer for that.
No, we're not forgiving the fines, so the money will go toward fixing the issue. Because the ones that they should be correcting are the ones that are still on an ongoing daily fine basis. So the whole idea of having the code enforcement piece as part of the CDBG plan is that there are folks out there who are just in a spot and can't get out and don't have the means to get out. So that's what this is for. There's a second step to that. So what they would then have to do, and we would have communication with those folks, once the CDBG crew gets it cleaned up, we, code enforcement, need to be made aware of that, because then we'll have to go out, we'll have to inspect the property. If the issues that the fine was going daily for have been corrected, we'll stop the fine. They will still have to go through that process where then it goes to the special magistrate and it comes to me, to the board, to ask for that lien reduction.
Do you have a criteria of, let's just say,
Here, you need this for them.
you have a criteria that you have to meet to get this grant for, let's just say, cleaning up your yards or something like that? I mean, you can't have a millionaire wanting his yard cleaned up. So you have to have a criteria that they have to meet first,
Later,
right?
moderate income.
But the moderate income, there's a,
Elderly, there's a little list.
Yes, ma'am. That's it. I ain't saying nothing else. Pretty good, though. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for coming out tonight. We do still have our cdbg@claycountygov.com email address open and accepting written comments through July 15th. And then, as mentioned, this plan will go to the board on the 26th. So thank you for coming.
Code